to the Foreign Desk. I'm your host, Lisa Daftari, and today we're going to be discussing something very urgent, underreported, a crisis brews in the Middle East once again, the brutal targeting of Syria's Druze community. And our guest, Rania Dean, a friend of mine and a sixth-generation Druze Israeli, she's a passionate advocate and a powerful voice for her community and many, many others. Rania, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for being one of the few people that are talking about this topic. I truly appreciate that.
Thank you. And you've done this for a very long time. This is not just something that popped up with this latest crisis. I want you to set the scene for us, because I had people, when I posted about this episode, I had people reach out to me and say, who are they? What's going on? And why aren't we hearing about it? And that's exactly what I want to break down with you today, setting the scene, right? So people may not be familiar with who the Druze are, what the history is, what they're doing in Syria. Let's talk about some context.
Yes, so the Druze are ethno-religious minority. They were resided for hundreds, if not thousands of years in the Middle East, basically in the Levantine area, which was now what we know now as Israel, Syria, Lebanon. Some of them, few thousands, are in Jordan. Now, the vast majority of the Druze people are residing in Sueda. This is the biggest county, and the biggest number of the Druze are residing there, which is around 700,000. The Druze people are a very small minority, even around the world. We are less than 2 million, and we have around 120,000 people in Israel. Now, the Druze people are misunderstood because their religion is secretive. And if you go to Google or Wikipedia, you're gonna see that you're gonna read that we are part of the Islamic Shiite sects, that we were established in 1021 by a Muslim caliphate called Hakim bi Amrillah, that after that we were executed and oppressed, and then we had to flee Egypt to the mountains of Syria, Lebanon, and some say also one of the European mountains, which called Ararat Mountain, which is now part of Armenia. And back then we had to take a decision either to be annihilated or to keep our identity like an undercover identity, pray underground, and show the world that we belong to the majority of the people, which was back then the Islamic religion and nationality. After years of execution in Egypt, we had to flee Egypt, and then we resided again in the mountains of Syria, Lebanon, and some sources say that we also reached the European mountains, which called Ararat Mountain. Now it's part of Armenia. Again, we were executed and oppressed, and then on 1043, to make the story short, we decided that from now on our religion will be secretive. We're gonna adopt this fundamental from Islam, Shia Taqiyya, which means you pretend to be someone else in order to protect and survive, to protect your identity and survive. Many minorities back then adopted this principle, not only the Druze and not only the Shia, but at that point, because we are a very, very small minority, we continued up until this day adopting this principle. So we cannot correct anything. Now, you might ask me a very legitimate question. If this is the case, why are you talking about it right now? The reason I'm talking about that right now, that it didn't work for us. And now we see that Sueda is massacred for the second time only this year. They were massacred on 2015. They were also attacked on 2021, which I'm gonna come into details after that. The thing is that we are an ethno-religious minority that was oppressed for hundreds, if not thousands of years, that we have our oral history that we pass from generation to generation. And our oral history says this story, that we are the descendants of Jethro. And if anyone here doesn't know who Jethro is the father-in-law of Moses. His daughter Tzipporah had married Moses, and Jethro wasn't only the father-in-law of Moses. He has, Parashat Yitro in the Torah. He's the only non-Jewish person, and we can, argue about that. Yes, and he also raised Moses' kids. At some point, helped him when he was helping the Israelites in Mount Sinai. So this bond had started between us and the Jewish people long ago, and we have a rich history. We both indigenous to the land. We both belong to the land. We both don't interfere with other people's lives. We follow the concept which says live and let live. We respect your religion, your culture, just respect ours. Don't interfere with ours. The Druze people, Lisa, they are a very small minority, as I said, but in every country that they reside in, they are very patriotic. They belong to the country. They would protect their country with everything possible, even with their lives. Along the history, up until this moment, the Druze people relation between each other was on a social aspect, never interfered with our political aspect. For example, the Druze, the Israeli Druze were belonging to Israel. That's it. End of story. They are 100% committed to the safety and security of Israel. Same with the Druze in Syria, same with the Druze in Lebanon, as long, of course, as they respect us and our culture. In Syria, something had happened, which we're going to go into details later.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, now what we see that the Druze weren't protected in the same countries that they gave their life for. And the only place that the Druze feel free to express who they really are, their identity, their true identity, that they are ethno-religious minority with a separate religion and identity, is in Israel. The Druze in Israel are free to say who they are. They are free to practice their religion. They don't have to hide behind other title in order to survive. This is not the case for our brothers and sisters in other countries. And that's one of the reasons why even in Israel, we, the Druze, still respect this concept of secrecy around our, religion. The Druze people are also divided into two groups, the Juhal, which is the uninitiated, and the Uqal, which is the initiated. What's that mean? So the Juhal are people like me. They are secular. They don't practice any religious, aspects in their lives. The Uqal, who are the initiated, those people who decided to carry on with our religion and our fundamentals, and they learn in secret. They pass the religion orally from, they have this place that they gather and they repeat this religion, the text until they memorize it. This is how we pass our religion. And these people have ranks. So if you can see that some of them have only mustache, some of them have mustache and beard, some of them have different attire, every physical detail about these people represents years of religious learning and wisdom. Now, what we are seeing now in Syria, that might look something very light, like why are you making it a big deal? People from ISIS and the regime forces are shaving these mustaches and beards. Now, when that might be something
You talked about the significance of the facial hair and then publicly humiliating them. I think a lot of people saw on social media this week, didn't see any mainstream media, and we'll get to that, why this has been something that is not of concern of the Western world to talk about this and to raise awareness about this. That's a whole separate conversation. What I want to talk about right now is what is happening to them, the significance of publicly humiliating them and publicly shaving them. Why don't you pick up from there?
Yeah, Lisa, before I start explaining about this, I want to just tell you that 2 days ago, I saw a photo that I shared also on my social media of the same pattern when the Nazis were shaving their rabbis' beards. And this touched me so deeply because we are still healing from October 7th, from the atrocities that we've seen on October 7th. So seeing these things, these patterns of humiliating the minorities just because who they are, this is the only reason. I don't see any reason why would you bring an elderly who is just a religious man practicing his religion peacefully and humiliating him and shaving his beard, and mustache, which means within this group of the Druze community, you rank. And that means a lot. That speaks volumes. They want to remove any marks or any symbols of our identity, our religion, our existence. And that's what we've been speaking about. It's not a war between, people there. No,
Right.
it's a deliberate annihilation of minorities, and
Why? Why the fixate? So there's a few things you said that I really want to break down for the audience that might not be
yes,
familiar. So the one thing I do want to start with is that 80-year-old sheikh that we saw, and sheikh being a higher rank among the religious, he's a cleric. He was shaved in public, humiliated, and then for reasons that we don't know, probably a heart attack or some sort of just weakness or just bodily failure, he died just a couple days after that episode. That was something that I read, and it's such an interesting thing for people to grasp this. First of all, what's interesting for me is you said we are just recovering from October 7th. You consider yourself an Israeli because your Druze community and family have
I
been
am
for
an
generations
Israeli,
in
100%.
truly Israeli. And then you juxtapose the fact that you are living inside Israel and feel safe and comfortable and you have national pride for Israel. And these Druze in Syria are being targeted. Why the fixation? Why the targeting of these particular uh, people within, as you said, this timeline, and that they weren't safe under Bashar al-Assad either? Why the fixation on the Druze?
Yes, but let me just make something very clear, Lisa. We are not part of Islam. That's the thing. We were never part of Islam. We were before Islam. Even DNA tests prove that our oral history is the right version. Our DNA tests prove that the DNA of the Druze people were Arabized. We connect our DNA to ancient Levantines genome. Our DNA was the closest to the Ashkenazi Jewish people, and everyone can just look at the data and check these facts. Now, why everyone thinks that we are Islam? By the way, even some Druze themselves, they keep repeating this, we are part of Islam. Now, when some of them are repeating this for survival issues, some of them are not aware of their identity, because this is the deliberate for thousands of years of annihilating any symbols of your existence, because you are a minority, you have no right to exist. Now, why the Druze? There are so many levels for this.
Tell me, why is it that there is such a fixation on targeting the Druze? I mean, this current government, they came in, they promised the world, they promised Donald Trump, they promised they're going to be different, they're going to behave, they want to incorporate themselves into the modern world, and then this happens. Why the targeting of Druze specifically?
Since Sharia came into power as the transitional president in Syria, 3 massacres had happened so far, and this is the 4th one. In December, they had the same massacre with the Alawites. On February, they had the same massacre against the Druze people, not in Sweden, of course, but against the Druze people. Hundreds were killed and massacred. In a few months ago, they had the same pattern against the Christian people, and now the Druze. Now, yes, it's more brutal against the Druze because the Druze people understand the Sharia very, very clearly. Some rumors even say his name was Amjad Mudaffar when he was in Iraq. Before he turns into Abu Muhammad al-Julani, he carried the Al-Qaeda ideology and then turned into Abu Muhammad al-Julani at some point of time, and then he adopted ISIS ideology, which is the same, by the way, and then he became one of the closest people to Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. Then he was rebranding himself as Jabhat al-Nusra leader, and then rebranded himself again as HTS leader, which is Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is more to speak to the Western ears.
And it worked.
Now,
And it worked.
it worked. Now, all of these reincarnations for Abu Muhammad al-Julani doesn't eliminate one main thing. He is Al-Qaeda. And once Al-Qaeda, you are forever Al-Qaeda. And if anyone can read the 100 years of master plan of speaks exactly about this. They would use any means. They would make any agreements. They would get any help. They would pretend to be peace people. They would pretend to accept peace agreement just to get to their main goal, which is turning the whole world into Sharia law. Now, I understand politics. I understand strategies, and I can really understand sometimes you have no choice but to try to trust the people of the place to run their own business, because at the end you can't run the world and fix the world.
Right.
But here there are so many signals, warning signals, that since the first day that he became the apparently the president of Syria, 3 deliberate massacres had happened, every time the same pattern. He incites the region with something small, he called it sectarian clashes, and then he brings the security forces, which is part of the Ministry of Defense, to apparently to solve the problem. In return, they tell the people there, the locals, we're gonna help you, but in return you have to surrender your weapons. Now, going back to your question, why the Druze specifically, and for the second time this year, because the Druze are the only group that are refusing to surrender their weapons. The Druze said, we believe in Syria, we are part of Syria, but we want Syria to believe in us as part of it. We want the constitution to include all Syrian groups. Now, the constitution that they made now, this Julani had made, exclude everyone but the Salafi jihadi group. Even the regular Muslims are not part of this. Of this, he's allowing, including also Chechens and from Uzbekistan and Tajikistan and you name it, to become Syrian. He grants them the Syrian citizenship. So it's so clear that the Druze are now the obstacle.
Outcasts. Yeah.
They are the obstacle for him, because the Druze will never stay quiet. It's along the, if you go to the history of the Druze, we are the smallest minority, but on 1925, the Druze were the reason why the French mandate had ended there. It's documented. It's part of the Syrian history. The Druze people would never, tolerate oppression, even when they are the weakest.
Do you think, and I totally hear you and everything you're saying, and I also had the same knee-jerk reaction when Donald Trump had his Middle East tour. And at the end of that tour, he said, okay, we're going to drop the sanctions on HTS, on the government now in Syria. We're going to give them a chance. We're going to hold our breaths. And the punchline being, he just went to all of these more moderate Arab states, some moderate, some not so moderate, and those who are signatory to the Abraham Accords, and those who may become signatory to the Abraham Accords, seeing the potential of a future Middle East. You think it was a mistake to drop the sanctions on the current Syrian government, to trust them and to believe that they will ever normalize relations with Israel, normalize relations with the West, and actually become a well-behaved regime in the region?
If you ask me back then, I thought that our president wanted to give them a chance, because the whole world wanted to give a chance for peace in the Middle East. After all, we are tired of the war. Israel has been at a war for a few years already, from all directions. And President Trump, I think, in my opinion, if you ask me, like, what was his reasons, I believe that Mr. Trump, our president, knows exactly who they are, knows exactly what is going on in the Middle East, but he wanted to give them a chance, just like he wanted to give the Iranian people a chance last time, when he told them many times, several times, just stop the war, go to peace negotiations. Now, I know that our president is a man of a word, but he wouldn't tolerate people who would just misuse his tolerance, let's say. I have hope that our government, our current government, will really recalculate the chances that they gave to this government, the many chances, and to really care for their people. After all, every logical thinking our culture tells you, every logical thinker would think, if you give them all of these advantages, you'll be so dumb and stupid to throw
Yes.
it to the ocean. You're gonna use it, you're gonna thrive, you can make your people happy. But when you have this a very deadly, brutal agenda behind you, and you are brainwashed to think that at some point you're gonna turn all of this world into a Sharia law state, I think you're gonna just think at some point that, yeah, I can use all means possible to just gain more power, thrive, and then I'm gonna go ahead and execute my agenda and ideology. I think Julani was gambling and betting on this, on the patience of the West and our government, that his story of sectarian clashes that he's having no control on, and he's just trying to help, and he will hold everyone accountable after this massacre had happened. All of
And I think that you really hit on something so important. We talk about this throughout so many decades of modern foreign policies, to believe that we can export our ideologies on other people, that because we want them to be democratic, they will be democratic, or if we want them to be, against terror, they magically will put down their grenades and their guns. They won't. This is a deadly ideology, and unfortunately, it's not worth it to them to be promised, like you said, a future of prosperity, of integration, of trade, of tourism, but they're throwing it all away. But are they really throwing it all away? Why is there no reaction? We've heard nothing. We've heard nothing so far. I do wonder if this will have some sort of trickle effect from the White House down, where they put the sanctions right back on HTS, where they make a statement from the podium saying that this is not going to be tolerated, all the way down to the media. You don't hear anyone talking about it. Why do you think that's the case?
right. In my opinion, my personal opinion, I'm not an expert. I can just tell you from what I know. I think that the Abrahamic Accords are so important for the Middle East, and I agree. By the way, I'm a person who really believes in peaceful ways of, resolving conflict.
Yes.
I believe that the Abrahamic Accords are gonna bring prosperity and for every country involved in it, and Syria has to be part of it. If we know all the details about the Abrahamic Accords, not from the peace aspect only, also from the financial, strategical, economical aspect, we have to have Syria as part of it. I think they have been patient with Syria because they hope that this Abrahamic Accord will be really executed. It's gonna benefit everyone. Now, what we see here, that the story that Sharia is trying to spread to the media, to the mainstream media, and even to politicians. He's whispering to the politician always the same story, that he has no control, towards these sectarian clashes or interference with the national security of Syria, and he's gonna hold everyone accountable and open an investigation. Now because we know the culture. I speak Arabic. I lived there. I know the culture. I know this is just a game, but it's not easy. It's not easy to recognize this game when you have so much to lose. Now, I want to believe, at some point, I really wanted to believe that Sharia is not really controlling these forces. But when you see, especially the last few days, that these people are, the electricity was shut, electricity towers were destroyed, no water, no bread, no formula for kids for weeks, if not months. They were attacked by tanks. They were attacked by Grad 120, which is a missile that only country can have. These things are not a signal of sectarian clashes. These are deliberate governmental act to annihilate and to weaken and to destroy this minority. So yes, Julani forces are part of it. They are actually the mastermind. Julani is orchestrating everything, trying to play this double standard. He thinks that he can convince our leaders that he's gonna outsmart them. From the Israeli side, Lisa, Israel had risked everything the last few days, and this always tells me again and again why I adore my country. Israel had risked everything, even the Abrahamic Accords, and said the Druze are a red line. Again and again, this is not the first time. The Prime
Right.
Minister came yesterday and spoke, also said, we're gonna continue protecting the Druze and the Druze existence. Now, what's gonna happen with all of this Abrahamic Accord thing? Because there are so many game players in this
Yeah.
thing. I don't know. I just know that it's gonna happen with or without Jolani, and it's better without him because he's a risk. He's a very imminent risk, not only towards Israel or the Druze or other minorities in Syria. He's an imminent risk to every agreement that he's in because he doesn't respect agreements, Lisa.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought up Israel. That was going to be my next question because the last thing Israel wants to do, fighting these multiple fronts right now, is to add another front and to get itself involved in yet another military confrontation. But they are going to protect their Druze, and it's funny you brought up the term sectarian violence. It seems like that's what the lazy journalists will always use that phrase when they don't want to get to the root of the problem. And if the government in Syria is not protecting the Druze, therefore they are attacking the Druze, and they are obviously complicit in this attack against the Druze community. Let's talk about the fact that this is not being covered, the fact that Israel's targeted attacks are meant to protect the Druze community, and that's what we've been reporting at the Foreign Desk as well. I read a column this morning by my friend David Lisa at the Jewish Journal in Los Angeles, and he said something along the lines of no Jews, no news. And we've seen that a lot in social media over the past few days because no one's covering this. No one cares about dead Druze. They just care about the Palestinians because it would be at the hands of Israel. What do you make of all of this?
First, let me comment on this. Wait, because they always keep their silence until Israel retaliates, and then they attack Israel. So they were waiting, of course. They said, okay, if Israel retaliates, we're going to all come and jump on this. This is exactly what had happened on October 7th. After a week of atrocities, and we were mourning, and when Israel just dared to retaliate and to protect itself, we suddenly saw all of these outspoken journalists and the mainstream media attacking Israel, and they're committing genocide against the Palestinians. This is also another pattern that is very upsetting from the mainstream media. That's why I don't trust anything I read or hear on any mainstream media anymore.
I'm a journalist, and I say the same thing. They've destroyed our industry. There is no integrity. There is no honesty. There is no trust. I hear you. I hear you 100%. But how do we? I mean, you've dedicated your life to raising awareness about this issue. What could be done?
Like I just want to go back to Israel because I think I owe my country this. Israel doesn't have to protect the Druze in Syria. Let's be honest. They are not the Israeli citizens. They never been. So why Israel is doing this? Some people would claim, like the mainstream media, that Israel has hidden reasons behind this. Yeah, first of all, could be. Why not? Every country has its own, targets and goals for its stability. But let's look at this. When Israel has a lot to lose, Israel decided to stand with the Druze people, even if they are not its citizens, because we have this very strong bond as Druze and Jewish people. When the Jewish people were massacred on October 7th, the whole media and the whole community was just celebrating this. The only people who rushed to the border, the southern border, carrying trucks of food and aid and fought side by side with the Jewish people from the start were the Druze. And it didn't start there. We've been fighting alongside the Jewish people even before Israel was established. And this, I can have 1 hour to just speak about this bond. But the thing is that Israel went through a lot the last 3 years. Has war in Gaza. We just finished the war with Hezbollah. We have these Yemenis against us. We have the Iranian regime against us. Who is not? And the mainstream media and the politicians and these professors.
The influencers.
influencers, these
Yeah.
professors that claim they are really the people to trust with
Right.
knowledge. They are funded for decades with
Right.
Qatari and Iranian and Russian and Chinese money, and trying to twist every single fact that proven for thousands of years, and try to make Israel look as the bad guy. Now, for us, we know the truth, Lisa. Me and you, we know the truth. And I don't think that Israel has a choice. If we look also at strategically and leave emotions aside, Israel can never allow jihadists to live on the northern border of Israel. We had this in Gaza, and we saw the results on October 7th. Even the USA tried this with Taliban in Afghanistan, and we see the results now on the ground. Israel, I hope it learned the lesson from all the mistakes that had happened along the history, and now they would never tolerate anything. I feel inside me, and from what I read, that now there is a change also for in the foreign policy from the Israeli side, that they're not waiting for the threat to attack them. They're now preventing it. And this is what I would expect from any country to do. And if the people and if the mainstream media want to attack Israel for protecting its citizens, let it be. It's okay for me. Who even cares what they think? Where were they when the Druze people are massacred? I didn't hear not even one voice, and didn't see any rally. I didn't see any Druze flag raised in our universities and campuses here, who
Right.
are literally funded by the same sources that are funding this mainstream media. So I don't care. I don't think that any decent human being should care. And I want to tell you something more important now that is happening. We are hearing from many sources that there is a campaign, huge campaign, well funded, to just damage the image of the Druze people and picture them as the ones who are massacring the Bedouin people. And I know from our sources on the ground in Syria, from Sweda, that they are seeing ISIS people, and they know they are not Bedouins, because the Bedouins are their neighbors after all. Some of them know them and know their accent and know their culture. They are wearing Bedouin attire and coming to the Sweda now at these moments, massacring and killing. Now, that's very common pattern. We saw that on October 7th, when they were wearing press uniform and killing. And then when someone was killed, they were claiming that Israel is killing a journalist. Same thing here. They are trying to picture the Druze as people who are thirsty for blood, when it's not in our culture. We don't have this. One more thing I want to tell you about this, Lisa. I was just reading before I met with you. The brother of Al-Julani, his name is Muammar al-Shara. He had just announced on his social media, official Facebook page, that there is a fatwa that enables these jihadists now to enslave the Druze women and take them as sabaya, or slaves. This is an elevation. Because
Yes.
he said, we stopped
Wow.
this fatwa for 500 years. Now it's active again. And
So
to
for people who, let me just explain for people who may not understand the severity of this. This is a
Yes.
reportedly was announced by an official channel of, meaning an arm of the regime. I also put it on my Twitter right before when you sent it to me, that there will be a legal decree, meaning by law you will have to enforce this, to take Druze women as legal slaves. This is horrific. This is something that, I mean, where are all the women's advocate groups and the women's march people and the people who are advocating for victims of
Well, good
sexual?
luck, Lisa.
And I mean, where are they? How can this happen?
This happens, this had happened, this is happening, and if we don't stop it, it's gonna happen again and
Well, let me
again.
ask you, are you in touch with people in Syria on the ground, in Sweden or in other parts, that can actually tell you what they're experiencing? Is there any feeling that they should leave Syria, that their lives are in danger, they have to get out? Why haven't they moved from their, I know it's hard to say that because I cover, the Jewish and the Baha'i and the Christian communities
Right.
inside Iran and other places in the Middle East, that they think that's their home. And of course, there were many, many more, and that number has shrunk. So obviously, there are many people who are still holding on because they feel that is their homeland. What's the feeling among Druze in Syria?
So I'm in contact with constantly with many people from Sweden. Unfortunately, lately we can't be in constant contact because they are shutting the electricity and the internet to just make it harder for them to report what is happening and all the atrocities. But yes, I'm getting information right from there. They are desperate. They are devastated because the whole world is silent. They asking me the same questions that you are asking me here. Where is the world, for God's sake? Where are all of these people who are calling for human rights? Where is the UN? Where is the United Nations? Where are why the King Abdullah is refusing to open a human corridor for us? Where are the people? The only country, the only entity that is helping them is Israel right now. With aid, they are out of water because there is no electricity, and most of them have these generators to get the water out of the ground. This is the wells. So it's devastating situation. They're telling me, I want to share with your audience something very emotional, but I have to say it just to let them feel. Yesterday, I didn't sleep. By the way, I haven't slept for 3 nights in a row. Yeah, no, so I'm sorry if I'm a little bit confused.
Imagine.
So one of them was talking to me, and she had some, her phone was still charged. So she was telling me, sending me messages. I don't know when is gonna be my last message to you. She sent me her cousin's message that she sent her, telling her they came, they took me. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where are they taking me. She sent me another messages from their neighbor telling them they butchered our neighbor's head. They put it in front of their door to warn us. Now, and suddenly she just disappeared, and I worried, I was terrified for her safety or for her life. But this is only one person. I have few people that were constantly contacting me, telling me they are butchering people, they are, slaughtering people, they are taking the women. They went to the hospital, and this is a massacre that we have all to talk about it. They went to Sweda Hospital. Sweda Hospital is a Druze hospital in Sweda County. There were the doctors, nurses, and injured people. That's it. They killed them all. Lisa, they killed all of them. I have the footages. The atrocities there are, it's hard to even talk about it without, you feel the chills. They killed injured people and doctors and nurses. Leave aside all the humiliation of shaving the beards and the religious symbols. They killed a grandmother. They killed her. She was sitting, and you see her body just in the same position. They have no mercy for no one. They have this ideology. They are brainwashed. Most of them are on drugs, by the way, just like, the pattern and the nature of ISIS.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and October 7th, what our October 7th is all about is the ISIS ideology. Let's face it.
To be medicated so that you can actually operate in a way that is non-human, even for them, even for the terrorists. Rania, I think one of the questions, and I'll end with this, I can talk to you for hours on this because I think it's just so important and no one's having these conversations. The one question people always ask is, now that they are listening to this conversation, now that they are aware to what's going on to the Druze community, what can the average person do to help their cause?
First and foremost, raise awareness, talk on their behalf. They have no voice. They are shutting their voices. They're not allowing the media to reach them. Even when they allow some Druze figures to talk to the media, they choose them and they select those who work with them. Let us all be their voice. Let us all be their voice, because if we don't stop it there, we're going to be the next. They're not going to stop anywhere. The Druze are not important to them. The Druze are another obstacle. They're just going to get rid of them, move on. He's saying it, he's declaring it loud and clear. Jerusalem is next. Look for his recordings. He said it. Jerusalem is next. So let's not fool ourselves and think it's just a small minority that no one had heard of. It's a tribal thing. Why I should care? We should care because this is a plan. This is 100 years plan of changing the world into something that no one can tolerate or live at. I also ask everyone, because we are now trying to raise funds for AIDS, and we are waiting for signals that we can really deliver these things. Everyone that is willing to donate any amount of money, me and other organizations, the Maman nonprofit, I know you know them, Lisa. Me and Maman nonprofit, they are always Maman nonprofit, always the first to help. So we are trying to raise the money in order to help them.
That account so that they can get aid to the Druze people. And I know the Maman Foundation very well intentioned, just like yourself. I want to thank you for your courageous voice in this fight. And again, not just somebody who just picked up doing this as a more recent thing. This is something you've been doing forever to raise awareness about the Druze community and all of those fighting for freedom in the region and fighting to really let the West know that you cannot reform a terrorist. You cannot trust these forces to behave or to change or to allow or tolerate minorities within the Middle East, those who are just fighting to live. Thank you so much for joining us, and to all of you, thank you for trusting us. Support independent journalists, because you can't trust the mainstream media. Remember to share this episode and to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining the Foreign Desk.